So we're rolling up to the grid here to take our position. We qualified in 5th, behind Richie Devon, David Hall, Ashton Hughes, Dylan Telford got a really good qualifying, and then behind me is Toby Summers, Rogan Chandler, Dave Fellows, Evelyn Biddle and Adam Chambers. That's our top 10 from qualifying. So if you have a look, the 2 Suzukis, the Triumph and the Augusta up on that front row, and then we're in the first position on that second row. So turn 1 at Taupo is normally pretty hectic, normally very hectic, especially in this class. You can see David isn't even really looking at lights. I think he gets a bit of a shock when they go out. They both get a really good start. Normally been pretty good at starts, and Ashton comes sweeping across into turn 1, which is a really good move. He was really late on the brakes there. So now we're up in 4th position, which is pretty cool. So we've gained a position off the start straight away, and we're into a really good position for the race. And so you'll see over the next couple of corners I start to study Ashton and see what he's doing, see where he's slow, see where he's fast. So I gain a little bit on him in the hairpin there. And you'll see as well that there's a couple of places that he'll actually pull away from me. Due to the Triumph characteristic and also his riding style and the differences between the bikes. You can see through that long corner there it's super planted and pulls a couple of bike lengths. Gets a little bit wide there, sort of reels it back in. This back corner here is quite an interesting one. So you can see Ashton slipping the rear around there, which is pretty typical of old Ashton. And then runs this sort of super bikey line and squares it up, which I sort of mess with my line sweeping through a little bit, and he just disappears into the horizon. This corner down here is where you'll hear the slipper clutch working really hard. We're actually having clutch issues with this weekend. We had a DNF later in the weekend due to a mechanical problem, and then we're coming back onto the start-finish straight to complete our first flying lap. So we're driving out of turn 1 down into turn 2, and just have a look how much I gain on Ashton down here. Nearly run into the arse of them, but not very well set up for the next corner, so we lose a little bit there. Sort of end up how we were before. You can see down into the hairpin, again gaining quite a little bit, but Ashton can sort of drive it out a little bit better and gain a little bit on the power. Down here trying to run over that tarmac inside of the corner. You see Ashton pull away in this corner. He's really fast through this corner, and I think probably that's where a lot of my time could be found. So coming down into the last corner before the back straight, this is a really important one for drive. So I'm trying to run a line where I can pull up on Ashton, and I get my pocket picked by Toby. He saw that obviously I left the door open there a little bit, and he just invited himself through. But if you have a look, we get in a slipstream and sort of try and retaliate straight back, and I probably should have made the move back on him there and gone straight back through. But it's pretty intense sort of corner, decelerating from 240 something k's an hour. So it's pretty hard to gauge sometimes the distance and whether you're going to be able to make it work. So anyway, that's Toby through, so he's bumped us back into 5th position, and just allowed Ashton to clear away at the front a little bit. Yeah, you got to be in it to win it, so you just want to maybe stick with them, whilst at the same time managing who's behind you. So Rogan goes through there, which was pretty brave, but he did a really good job. He gets relegated to 6th position, and now virtually all I can hope for is that these three will start scrapping and trip each other up, which is very possible. So been my strategy most of this year, wait for the top 5 to sort of dice and slow each other down or crash or something. I managed to hang on to them alright. Listen to the slipper clutch into here screaming. So you can see we closed up there quite a bit into those S's, and then just get a little bit pulled away from us on the straight. Brogan's trying to move there and he just gets it done on Toby. So as you can see, they're scrapping pretty hard for that last podium spot, tripping each other up. So I'm seeing this and I'm getting a bit excited because it's all the while just bringing me closer and closer. So you'll notice because of our gearing we have to short shift into this corner up the back because we're quite banked over for it. You want the bike to be settled, but you also want to be in the power band. We're sort of in between gears there, and it's the sort of thing that we play around with on the weekend and try and find a good setup for maybe going to a different gearing option. Because third, it was just on the limiter all the way through there, and fourth, it was a little bit dead, so that's why you see some of the other guys going away from me a little bit there. Unfortunately, because of our bike, it's got to be right up in the power to, right up in the rev, sorry, to make any power, so we're having to rev the tents off it to make sure it goes anywhere, and thus we lose a little bit in that corner, but everywhere else it seems to work pretty well around Taupo. So you'll see coming down the straight here, we brake just at the end of the wall, so there, and into turn one. Notice the patches on the track here, so that big dark grey tarmac at Taupo gives you awesome grip, so that's where I try and get really aggressive on the throttle. You'll see they've repaired most of the corners with those sort of patches, and that's where you want to be trying to get a lot of the aggressive throttle done on the side of the tyre. So there's another patch there, and into this next left-hander there's another big patch, and it's really crucial to try and get a lot of your edge grip throttle done on those patches. Talking about patches, this next one here that you run over, that one's a little bit new. I haven't had a lot of time on it, it's sort of a bit funky. I noticed the guy's pulling a little bit of an advantage on me there. So yeah, starting to get a bit lonely. We're trying to manage the distance to the rider behind whilst also trying to stay in contention with these three here. Trying to keep in touch with them. So I'm pretty lucky to have a awesome pit crew. So you'll see, maybe see when we come down the pit straight in a minute, the pit board, and that's super important for me for knowing how far the person behind me is. That's the only bit of info I really want to see. You might see it down here briefly, and it's kind of crazy that you've got to take that information in doing those sort of speeds, but yeah, coming down there it shows you normally I have it set up with the rider's number, because I know most of the riders in the field, the gap to them, and also sometimes my position. And then we've got 4 rows on the pit board, so there's one more row for added information. Maybe my main contender's crashed, or maybe I need to hurry up or something like that. We've got an extra space to put that information up. But as I'm sure you could see, there's not much time to read it, so you read in order of the most important information at the top going down, so that if you miss the last couple of lines, it doesn't matter so much. So anyway, through this section, the front 3 are starting to pull away a little bit, and getting a bit closer to them on the brakes in this corner. Coming down the back straight, they disappear like specks on the horizon a little bit, so that's what's really difficult on our bike this year, being a little bit shorter power, is once those guys start to check out, it's so hard to keep touch with them once you don't have the slipstream. So we always make a little bit up into these S's here, but at this stage, yeah, checkered flag. So I would have thought if the race was any longer, then probably the gap would just be even further drawn out. So that's pretty good. That was a P6, I think, for our first race of the year. We're sort of hoping to be on P5 sort of pace this year, so pretty happy with that. I think this was only, I don't know, 5 or 6 laps or something like that. Not many anyway. So we don't quite have the time or the pace to catch up with them, so we'll have to probably settle for 6. We want to sit there and capitalise on any mistakes those 3 make in front of us, and try and get an advantage out of that, but without one of them making a mistake or really tripping each other up. We're probably going to have to be happy with 6th place. Oh, this was my best result in sort of a national level championship, so that's pretty cool. I'll be pretty happy with that for our first outing on the new bike. Still just the standard spec motor, but everything else is miles ahead of what we were riding last year. So yeah, pretty exciting. I mean, it would have been pretty cool to stay in sort of contention for that third position. However, at least we weren't sort of letting some of the other top guys through. Like, there was some big names behind us: Taupo, Avalon Biddle, Adam Chambers. Dave Fellows can be really fast as well. So to keep all those guys behind is pretty cool, and be right up there with those front guys. So yeah, pretty exciting race. Pretty happy to be on that sort of pace this early in the season.